I mean, this is what she said after all. So if we don't start talking about women in politics, I'm failing at my job. So let's talk about some of the significant barriers you've observed from women entering or thriving in Canadian politics.
I think one of them has to be something that we mentioned already, which is I think that the way that the discourse has changed, the fact that it's become a nastier environment is a real barrier for women. I mean, politicians are heavily targeted on social media. And this, this affects the daily lives of people who are just trying to do their job. You really subject yourself to an absolute barrage. And I think, that's one of the things that we try to break down all the time is, how can we get to a more positive discourse, which I think sounds a little Pollyanna-ish, but I think is so critical, so necessary for us to be able to debate real issues and find progress and move the country forward. But I do think that remains one of the biggest barriers. And I know it's, in some ways the reason why some politicians have said, I've had it, like enough is enough. I've sort of done my job. I put in the time, but there's no way I'm going to engage like this anymore.
I think another major barrier that I see all the time, because I fly around Canada and I teach campaign schools, and that's to women who have an interest in putting their name on a ballot. And the issue that I see over and over again is that they just lack the resources. Yeah. So campaigns are not easy. First of all, it's not easy to get a nomination. It's not easy to be the person on the ballot. But once you are at that point, how do you fund your campaign? How do you build a campaign team? The number one question I get during these campaign schools is, who's going to be my campaign manager? Do I need a campaign manager? And so having those resources for women in politics, and my hope is that eventually Beyond a Ballot can get to a point where we're supporting that, we're driving those connections. But I think that there just is a lack of resources in Canada when it comes to women that want to put their name on a ballot, but also women who have never had a touch point in politics, even, getting women to a point where they're looking at putting their name on a ballot. We need to go back. And something we talk about all the time is that for a generation, we've been told that to be politically engaged, you need to run. But we forgot about all the women that will never run, but they just need more. They want that one touch point. And a lot of that comes down to the education component, which we're trying to provide. And so the thing that we do at Beyond a Ballot is to try and think outside of the box of how we have the conversation about politics. It's not 1993. We're not doing media clips anymore. We have new media. We have a way to reframe A, the conversation, and B, the way it's delivered. And so, like what Amanda and I are trying to do with the podcast, it's like, how do we educate as many people as possible that maybe never had a touch point with politics? If you're a mom of 3 in Surrey, BC, and your day is like packed to the max of 1,000 things to remember, just figuring out why Justin Trudeau is talking about online harm is not really number one on your priority list. But, being in the car with your kids, driving them to school and listening to our podcast where we talk about that issue might just be that one touch point that makes a change in your life. And so I think resources for me is what I always come down to when we talk about barriers to political engagement and barriers to putting your name on a ballot.
Online harm is a big issue for women in particular looking to get into politics. So what measures, are there practical measures that political parties and institutions could implement to make politics more accessible and safer for women?
Well, I think the bill is a starting point, right? To try to deal with some of the online harm, but it's just a starting point. It's like tip of the iceberg. And really it's so challenging because, I know of politicians who don't run their feeds anymore. Their staff and teams run the feeds, and their staff and teams say to them, don't even look. Don't look at the comments. Don't look at the, you know what I mean? Don't go there. You have important things to do all day long.
Yeah.
But that's an unfortunate solution, right? The solution is just don't look. No. We have to deal with actually what's happening. And I think part of it is, I really feel strongly about this. I think women have the ability to collaborate in a way. We know this. We know this in business. We've seen many studies about this. Women know how to collaborate. They know how to get the job done. They're solutions oriented. I think the more women we get involved, the better we'll be at some of this. I genuinely believe that. Is it going to be perfect? No, but I do think that women have a desire to make the conversation better. So the more women we get involved, the more women we have talking about it, listening to podcasts like yours and ours, I think the better. And if we can have healthy conversations and we can model that we can have two different points of view about politics, but we can have a healthy discussion about it. Rachael and I are never, throwing mud at each other. We have a very reasonable, healthy conversation about things that we disagree on. The more we model that, especially to younger men and women who are coming up the pipelines, hopefully the better informed they'll be about the choices they make when they're corresponding with each other over social media.